What's up guys, Mr. Steckler here. So I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to use some of these parts so that you guys can rocket ahead on your build. So firstly, this part over here, the bearing flat, very important. This bearing flat has two main parts to look at. You have the flat side and the side that has the little prickly things at the end over here. So how it works is there are three ways you guys can use the bearing flat with three different parts to lock something in place. You can use the Keps nut, you can use the nylock nut, or you can use the BRI, which is the pop rivets. This is the inner pop rivet, and this is the outer pop rivet. I'm going to go over the strengths and weaknesses of all of these different parts. So first thing is we're going to go over the BRI and BRO. So these two parts work together. You'll notice there's a little hole on the inside of the outer one, and the inner one over here goes inside of the outer one. How it works is you would take your bearing flat over here and you'd put these little prickly things face down so it locks into the metal part over here. So if you take a look at this metal part, if I put it the reverse way, you can slide this all around, but once it goes in, it will be able to snap in place and it won't move at all. So the inner parts go inside the back of this, and then to lock this in place, you could take the outer pop rivet, place it inside, and then you take the inner and you place the inner one inside of the outer one, and you push down to lock this in place. So the strength of it, as you just saw, that's really easy to put in, but it's a little difficult to remove. It's also, as you notice, not the strongest connection. So it's not the one that you want if you want it to be very strong so that it's not constantly losing functionality. Personally, I don't recommend using this one, but it's an option and I want you guys to have it available to you. Second part is the Keps nut, and the Keps nut is going to work with a black screw. And there's many lengths of black screws that works with any of them, and these teeth of the Keps should always be faced down towards what's locking in place. I notice so you can see here the Keps is facing down, those little teeth are pointing down, and once it's fully screwed in, it's going to be against the metal like this, and that's what's locking it in place, and it's what's going to keep it nice and tight there. That this guy works is you place the screw inside of the bearing flat, like so, then you hold it with one hand, and on the other side, you're going to put the Keps, and you're going to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, you're going to tighten that over there. Now what you may notice is that it's not fully tightened, so if you want to tighten these more, what you can use is Allen wrenches. Specifically, the shorter 32mm thicker Allen wrench is what's going to fit with a hexagon shape over here inside the hexagon shape of the screw, and you can then place this inside, and you can turn this to the right, and it will tighten the Keps over here. Now, you don't want to over tighten this, or what's going to happen is you're going to strip this little part of the screw. You just want to, just hand tight is just right. Just tighten enough where you feel like it's not moving. The third and final part that I want to go over is the nylock nut, and this one has this little plastic insert on the inside. It is the strongest of all of the parts, and I don't recommend using this always because it just takes so much time to put on and take off. I recommend using the Keps most of the time. But to put the nylock nut on, what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to get your screw, and you're going to place the screw inside of here. Now, I'm not using the gold screw for this. I'm just doing this for ease of sake. Normally, it would work with a black screw only. So then you'd put the other one on here, and then you'd have to, you would notice on a black screw, this wouldn't tighten very easily. I used a gold one just to show it in the demonstration easily. What you would have to do with a black screw is you're going to have to get a wrench. You're going to have to fit this wrench around the part, and you're going to have to slowly do righty-tighty and slowly turn this to the right and then lock it in place. You can see here the wrench wrapped around it, turn it to the right to tighten it, turn it to the left to loosen it. This 393 motor over here, you'll notice there's little gold screws, room for gold screws over here. The gold screws are the motor screws. If you try and put one of the black screws inside of here, it's not going to fit. Only the gold screw is able to screw into the motor over here. So one more thing, guys. So there's a container of three different quote-unquote screwdriver parts. These are Allen wrenches that had different sizes, and these three different parts are available to you. If you go over to the window over there, it's going to be on top of those blue containers. So what these guys are going to do over here is these guys are able to interact with the screws, the gold screws and the black screws, and you kind of have better leverage to be able to hold the handle and use them. These don't stay in the kit. They can be returned inside of this white part at the end of every period, and you're welcome to take them whenever you want. You'll notice that on the end over here, they all have sizes, and it will tell you that this one is 564, and that's the type of Allen wrench that it is. This one's the 332, and this is the short fat one, this is the long skinny one, and then there's also a Allen wrench that has this little tip on the end which will help you interact with the black screws. It's also a what's it called? It's a 332. It's working with the fat screws. So you're able to use these 3 parts. You can go take them whenever you want, and I want you guys to know that these are available to you guys to be used. One more thing you guys need to be aware of is that when you guys are working on the construction guide and you per se were on step number 1 and you weren't sure what BRI was over here, instead of just wishing you knew what that part was, what you guys should be working on is you should say, okay, BRI, let me go see under the drawn part names what that part is. And you can go over and you can see, look for the abbreviation BRI and you see bearing pop rivet. Now you kind of know what it looks like. Then you want to go over to your kit and try and put the part in front of your iPad and be like, which one looks like this? So you can then know the name of the part with both the initial and the name. And then what you guys can do is if you don't know how that part's supposed to be used, you can go over to the purpose log and you can try and see if another group member has put in its purpose. If not, you go and you find that part, and then it's your job, or at least the understander's job, to then go onto the internet, go Google, how does a chassis rail or a chassis bumper 20 hole work? And you can look that up, and then you find that information, then you go back over to the construction guide and you know why that part's being used. So this is kind of how the digital notebook works. We can switch between all of your different sections to figure out how these parts work. So M393, BRI, BRO, SSL, like you can look what is an SSL up, and in your part names you'll end up finding what that part is over here, SSL, long motor screw. So that's what I want you guys to know. You guys finished watching the video log over here, and you have seen that this group over here told you guys in their video to go to step number 7 because they have finished step number 7. You go to the construction guide, you go down to step number 7, and you start there. What you may not realize is you weren't here for steps 3 through 5, and you may not know why those steps aren't there. So the first thing you may want to do when you come in is, okay, step number 1 has these 2 parts over here. Let me go over to my kit and let me look for those parts. So you open up your kit and you look for yourself. Is this step 1? Is this step 2? Like where are those steps? We find a part over here and we're like, oh, hey, this kind of looks like that step over here. Let me hold it up in front of it and try and see if, okay, so we have 1 of them. We need 2 of them. Let's go see, do we have this one? So we know we have step number 1 over here, and look for step number 2. Like lay out all your parts, check it against what they have over here, and then like work your way down. So you know you're on step 7, but not only do you check for number 1, but then you go and you, like I said, you hold it up and you say to yourself, okay, are these parts in the same spot from here to here? No, they're not. Well, I'm gonna go fix it. Well, if it is in the right spot, now you can then move on. So that's what I want you guys to know. You have to physically check and see these different steps.